Alrighty. Hello again, and welcome to the Spincast Cycling Show. I'm Brian Kellison, Casey Shum, Lisa Reese. Brian White is once again on another boat. He enjoys boats. And so he is currently in the Atlantic Ocean, you think? Or he said Fort Lauderdale. Gulf of Mexico, is that what it is? He's in some boat somewhere. I usually take planes, and the plane that I took was to Las Vegas for work last week. I brought my cycling shoes. I brought my cycling pedals. I brought my tool to put it on a bike. I was in a hotel that did not have a bike that I could do any of that with. So I ran on a treadmill. With all my, I ran on a treadmill, not outside, because I had a meeting like half an hour after my start of the thing, and it was very windy. And that was sort of when the big winds were coming in from Vegas, which were affecting the California fires. So everyone's thinking about the Californian residents. I'm a native Californian. None of my family, but I had a coworker who was giving us live updates on sort of the progress of things. So
Actually, you said that, BK. Somebody asked on my stream, and I confirmed. But Brian, you are not in the LA proper area.
No,
right?
I'm
You're
not.
Quite far away.
Yeah, I'm quite far away. I'm about, I would say, 6 hours away, 4 or 5 hours. So I'm northeast, which is the Central Valley. But I grew up in San Diego, which is two hours south of Los Angeles. For anyone that's kind of, if you see where the map is, right, of Los Angeles, most people that live in the Palisades area are more spread out. It's built up into the hills, the Hollywood Hills and the hills that are surrounding Los Angeles. And the wind and everything was pushing around. And I wasn't totally involved. My wife was giving me updates. But I did have someone my coworker who lives in West Los Angeles. We reached out to him. My wife was like, hey, check and see how he's doing. Early in the morning, he said, oh, yeah, it's that one fire is about 2 hours away. And then later in the day, it's 3 miles away. It moved fast. It was really fast. So our thoughts are with those that were affected. And we're here as an outsource for people to maybe get away from that for a while. Okay, because every time you got to take a break, unless you're fully invested in it and living it. Because I've been evacuated. No, I've never been evacuated, but I've had people that have been evacuated in San Diego fire. So
We live in this area where there is frequent forest fires, and I've been on evacuation alert before. A few times.
That it moves. The wind is one thing. The climate changes. Also, it's dry. California is very dry in certain places. It's a very desert climate. And so all those things just combine. And that's why we have fires and we have earthquakes in California and other parts of the world. They're having a snowstorm. And I don't know if Casey, maybe are you in one of those snowstormy places right now, or?
I've been on the edge of both of the last two snowstorms. So yeah, we have not gotten the pile that everybody else has, but I've had to shovel for all of them.
Right.
4 or 5 inches last weekend, and we got a couple inches last night, a couple inches late in the week this week. Yeah.
So extreme weather, whether you're riding inside or outside, hopefully we're a resource for people to step away from that, get a little bit of a distraction. Because we're talking about fake racing and make-believe stuff, which I love. I brought my pedals, but what I did, this is the thing I'm going to touch on. Then we're going to get into the racing of stuff. Because Lee and I actually race, so we're gonna tempt our national championships. I forgot when I was filling out the form because of all the hoops. Remember the thing we were talking about last week's show? Please check it out. I was very proud of that show. I think we touched on a lot of things. I think a lot of people really, really invested in that because it touched on a lot of things as regular folk who, hey, I want to do this sort of thing instead of just like, hey, I just jump into a race and I can race. I brought my pedals, but I didn't, and I was filling out the form because I was very busy with work, but I was putting my form together with the Power Passport video, my weight video, and other things. I was filling out the form, and I'm like, oh my goodness, I don't have my weight, or I don't have my hardware video, which is you have to video your hardware that you're using, right? So I filled it out. I did the best I could. I did like a little video where I'm holding my pedals in my hotel room going, I don't have my kicker move video, but I have my pedals. They're right here, and I will get them to you as soon as I can if necessary. I sent the form in, and then I followed up with another email to race control at MyWhoosh. They kick back, hey, you're an SRC. We have your stuff. You're good to go. You're ready. And I'm like, I just want to make it so I can make the ERC. Go ahead, Lee.
I'd actually say MyWhoosh. Okay, so I had some glitches this week, but when you email a company, MyWhoosh gets back to you fast.
Oh, yes.
I sent them about 3 emails last week, and I think the longest was 15 minutes. And wow. I super appreciate fast turnaround emails from companies.
Right.
I've heard that a lot the last couple of weeks. Yeah. I emailed and they got back to me in 24 hours.
Do the form or fill out the form and follow up with an email.
It's because I accidentally signed up for SRC. I thought I was signing up for the ERL race, and I signed up for SRC. And I was like, because I've heard they don't take kindly that if you sign up for SRC and don't show up. They don't like that. So I was like, oh no, I don't want to race SRC. But they said, you're approved for SRC. And I emailed them, was like, hey, can you pull me from the race? Sorry. And it was 4 minutes. Yeah, no problem. No issue.
Yeah.
We got ya.
The great race control service. Like they have that. That's accurate. So I get the email back. Okay, I'm not worrying about it. I just go back to work and I'm working through stuff. Right now I get home. It's Friday. Getting ready to race. This is the thing I was going to do. So I haven't done a race like this in a while. Like it's been probably since the last. No, it's Zwift Games, which was sort of April. I don't know, spring. Let's just say spring last year. I had to wake up at 5. Well, I chose to wake up at 5. I don't have to wake up until whenever.
It was early for the West Coast.
Yeah, I had to wake up. I woke up at 5 to then be like, okay, I really don't want to do this. So like at 5:30, I'm like, I better go do this. That's what I have to deal with all the time. I have to deal with myself, like talking myself out of really wanting to do this. But I'm like, I have to do this. Otherwise, I can't do the nationals. So I get up at 5. I do I look at there's a weight form, or I read the Echelon thing. And I'm like, oh, what do I do with my weight video? Because I did a weight video for the Power Passport, but I hadn't done a weigh-in video to do the Echelon Racing League. In the old days, which was like 2 years ago, a year ago, you do your weight video within the hour of the race. I believe for non-elites, it's 24 hours hour before the race.
Yes.
Not nationals. Yes. So it was like you can do your weigh-in, Friday at whatever, 6:45. That's 24 hours. So I could do Friday up until that point. And I'm like, oh my God, I misread it. So I did it really quick. I weighed myself with it like 25 minutes in.
So with being like in a morning race, Brian, you could have done that weigh-in like when you got out of bed on Friday if you slept a decent time, right? Yeah. Like you could have got up and done it. Yeah,
that's I think because they have so many other weight things they have to deal with the elites, they would prefer to do the community races and have all their data done before the elites send all their in a big push of information.
I do think I heard Gabby talk about this a little bit in one of her podcasts that she did recently. And her point was the race time of day is different for everyone. And some people like to always like get out of bed, do your weight in the morning versus having a full stomach. And so people that are racing at 9 o'clock at night and there's a 2-hour limit, it's like, who wants to do a weigh-in at 7 in the evening after you've had dinner or whatever? So giving the 24 hours allows a person to pick like their preference of time of day, give them a little bit of flexibility that they don't feel like they're at a disadvantage due to their time zone.
Yeah. This is my pitch for weight is a bet. We have a more automated system.
Yeah.
Or like a better physics thing where we don't have to use weight. Because then I'm like, well, I don't care about my weight right now because I'm just so busy with other things. But there's the old Brian who used to really worry about the weight, and I would weigh differently on a Tuesday than I would on a Thursday. Seriously, I have data where I'm like, wow, I weigh less on a Tuesday for some reason than I do on a Thursday, So that's what I did. Then I got on, I was like warming up, and I recorded on my phone, and then my phone is full of other stuff. Like I have whatever. All right, full disclosure. I have a family member that is older and not is close to dementia. Like she has, and so I've recorded some videos and I haven't pulled them off. And I don't want to delete those videos, so my weight videos are taking second place to what I need to do for taking off videos of people that I should be pulling off, and I'm making a video edit, right? So I couldn't, for some reason my phone is completely full. I couldn't just upload it to YouTube from my phone, which I've done in the past. It kept failing. So I played my video that I have on my phone in my video on my Twitch stream. And then I downloaded that from Twitch and put it on YouTube. And that it's a video. It's so in video into video into video. I came in last, so it doesn't really matter. But the hoops are still hoops. And being prepared for last minute stuff is where it's difficult, because of the things that you need to do to prepare for a race in the real world or outside. This is a real world. It's virtual, but it's still in the real world. Real world. I don't weigh myself in the parking lot before an outdoor race, because this is a game that runs on physics that are simulated. You need to do this. I was thinking, wouldn't it be cool if you could just do it into the game? Like just video it into the game, but people have mobile devices. They don't have this ability. I get it. I'm just trying to find solutions to problems. That's it for getting it on the bike. Then I started warming up. I'm like, okay, I'm going to hang for as long as I can. Now we're getting into the race, everybody. I lasted 1 lap, 3 laps. Lasted 1 lap. Congratulations to Scott Cunningham, current national champion. He rode away and did a great job.
That's in chat right now.
Oh, yeah, I know.
Great job, Scott.
I became DS. I don't know if you heard any of my DSing, but there's nobody going to watch me kind of noodle around. I don't have that because I was off the bike for a week. In addition, I'm just not as fit as I used to be. The surging, the My Whoosh thing, this is the first time I've raced with other people in My Whoosh. People have seen me ride My Whoosh and talk about My Whoosh along with Bike Terra and by all the other stuff. But I don't get to ride with a lot of people in My Whoosh. I ride solo in My Whoosh because I live in California and there's a time zone where SRC is 2 o'clock in the morning, and I don't want to do that. Or it messes up me big time when I do that stuff. Now I want to do it. I had to learn. My takeaways from the thing was learning the sort of like, the draft felt better. The draft felt like way better than Zwift, in my opinion. I don't know what. Maybe
I thought it was good.
Yeah. The draft I think is good. Like I could sit back and recover a little bit, but when I had to spike because people were putting little efforts in, like the fit guys are putting the efforts in, I was like, oh, I got to work. I banked on somebody pulling back the group, so I was like, oh, I'm on off the back. I think his name was Tafoya. If you go back and watch my replay, I was like, okay, come on, do it, because I was already on the limit a little bit. I was like, hey, I don't want to like use up energy and pull this person back when they can pull me back, and I gambled and I lost. That was a calculated move. Now, I think the biggest thing that My Whoosh needs to do for me, they got to fix the animations. Not the getting up out of the saddle, which everyone's complaining about. It's not that. It's the jerkiness. They need the flow. I've said this since RGT put steering in. There is not a good flow. Zwift has a pretty good flow, but I don't know what's going on with they have other things that you have issues with. But sort of the flow of movement, there is such a jerky little when you move left and right and go around people, and you're in the middle of the group. If you can bring up maybe my VOD or your VOD, when you're in the right-hand side of the group and you just sort of move completely over to the left through everybody, and it's just like, that doesn't exist. That doesn't exist. Like you should collide a little bit more and not just float through people over to the left-hand side. Because when you're in a groove, like when I'm and I'm going, and I'm sort of like, I know this is hard, I got to focus on something, I'm looking up the road, or I'm looking at my avatar, which is hard to see. It's even harder to see in My Whoosh. They need to fix that too, because the camera angles are wrong. It's so hard to see who you are and what's around you. And the flow of the game is what I have a problem with.
Yeah, Zwift has nailed that to a point of, as people are moving around for position, what I found with my whoosh was when you come up to another rider and you go to pass them, your guy does this.
Yeah, it's a tilt.
And
It's like it's a little.
In real life, you don't tilt. You just go around them.
We need to flow.
Yeah.
Every game, somebody is not paying attention to the flow of cycling. Cycling is a very fluid sport. And it's just because there's ones and zeros, it's a binary, and everyone's like, "Oh yeah, well this is the lane of the rider and all that stuff." Like
people have said in chat,
innovate code.
slot cars.
Yeah, slot
It's like
cars.
slot cars.
Yeah.
It's like tuk, 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 tuk,
Well,
tuk.
that was RGT, and that's why I said the flow thing. You remember that, Lee? I wrote that thing, that open letter to RGT, whoever it was, way back.
And I think if I'm hearing you guys right, and I think I agree with this too, is the draft and how you can serve and how you work around other riders doesn't need to change for my whoosh.
No,
it's just physically the way it moves you around on the screen. So it's not about physics so much as more of just the visuals.
Correct.
Yeah.
The visual representation of what they've decided to do with their physics. I agree with that. That's a clearer way to say it. But yeah, I'm not saying.
Yeah. Well, I just wanted to clarify.
Yeah.
Thank you for
clarifying. Yeah, I like the draft is fine, but like the visual moving of me around is like, man. And then there's a couple of camera angles. Like camera 1 is what I was using, but I like using 3, but it's too low. You can't see anything. What I said on my stream is there needs to be like there should be like a camera with an additional like movement in the camera angle. Like you have the angle, but like, you know how you can let's say like games where you can peer around a corner, like a first person shooter where you can peer around a corner. Like I would like that in first person, because I felt like I could sit up and see what's going on and then get back and be arrow, but still be first person. Or like look to the left a little bit, look to the right. That's sort of what it's like to ride in a real race or a real group. Is you're like, you really don't know what's up front, and I'm okay with that. But I want to be able to, if I lean up and look around and go, okay, cool, for fear of, because I'm not going to crash in this game, but I can't see the angle, the third person, or excuse me, the first person, which is camera 3, I believe. You're just looking at the back of somebody, and you can move around. You can move on the bike, but not move the body. We want
Zwift's movements and Zwift's camera angles, but my whooshes.
Oh, if they did that, then I think people would be way more into the flow.
Right, because like with Zwift, my frustration with Zwift on visibility is not actually the camera angle. It's just get everything off my screen except for the riders. Tired of seeing 50 name placards in my way, right? Yeah. And because you were like, I can't see, and I'm like, well, at least you don't have. When I was watching you, Brian, I was like, at least you don't have all the name placards.
Right. The cool thing is RGT had names on or names off.
Yeah.
But you can leave the HUD on. That's the thing, is they had a little bit of customization. And so you can't stress how important the little subtleties of visual representation that needs to happen. And that was my biggest takeaway, other than me getting dropped, which is because of my fitness, not because of anything that happened to the game. I'm not blaming the game. I'm blaming my physical prowess as not being there anymore. It is currently like, hey, the draft was pretty good. I could sit in there, but like I don't want to move. Like if anyone's ridden in a group, like you can get behind the last wheel and kind of just chill with that person. But if I moved around a bunch of times, man, that's what threw me off. And I was just like, all right, well, I guess I'm moving to the left very frequently, and like through people, you know. And sometimes I mentally want to be on the rails. So, how was yours? How was your race, Lee?
Getting up early is hard.
Oh,
but I had a weird glitch in my whoosh, which I've never had before.
Oh.
My whoosh has ran flawlessly every time I've used it until this race. And it was super frustrating because I thought, am I going to get booted from not completing a qualifying race? But here I was.
Okay, now we're going to watch it. Visual or audio only audience.
Basically.
Oh, wow. He's pedaling. Lee is pedaling. Do you want me to describe it, or you want to describe it?
Well, the game is basically glitching where I'd have 5 seconds where it pause, and 5 seconds where it would play, and then it would catch back up.
And the time was skipping. Yeah, the time would catch up.
So
and then
it was actually
yeah.
recording my ride. The ride went fine, but I spent an hour of a race riding like this.
Oh, yeah, you were going 30 frames to 2 frames and then nothing. Like it would go nothing. It would just stop.
There was some weird.
And then watch the frames per second pop back on. Yeah.
Yeah, it was the communication between, I guess, the MyWoosh server. Because what would happen is I brought up the task manager and was looking at my internet, and every time it would skip, it would spike the internet and catch back up. Now, this is just a weird glitch because everything else was running smoothly. It's just like the ping, according to MyWoosh, was low.
Yeah, it's very low. It's double digit ping.
It's not general internet dropouts.
No.
You wouldn't see the smoothness.
Yeah,
you're streaming.
On your stream.
You're actually streaming, and there's no drop frames in your stream either.
I have 0 drop frames to Twitch at all.
Oh, wow.
Except just in MyWoosh. And I'm trying to ride with this Richard Allen guy here.
Yeah.
It's really hard to kind of guess what your guy is going to do 5 seconds in the future.
Yeah.
While you pedaled.
Yeah, all you can do is like lock into a groove, right? Just ride steady and hope he works around you a little bit.
Yeah, and at one point I was just like, okay, this is what it is.
Did you message him and say, hey? You could have
there was actually other people.
him. You could have direct messaged him in the game, even though you're right next to him.
There actually was global chat. I got a 1 there, and someone else was having the same issue.
Yeah, okay.
Some other guy was going, hey, I'm glitching.
This is a weird glitchy because, you're going 5 seconds and then nothing. And then it comes back and it's giving you 2 frames a second.
So for the first 5 minutes of the race, I actually stopped pedaling and tried to like repair things, thinking maybe it was a pairing issue. So most of the people,
rode away.
They were gone way ahead. And then finally I realized, like I was about to shut the game down, and then I realized, no, the time is actually jumping. So it's recording.
Yeah.
Because right now it says 13:24.
Yeah, that's what the first thing I looked at was the
and then it says 13:30.
Yeah, you're
so
not
the time
behind.
actually jumps.
Yeah.
So that was an hour of just pedaling, staring at the wall, because the visuals in MyWoosh are fantastic. This looks beautiful.
I think I asked you this. This is MyWoosh regular, not MyWoosh HD.
Yes, the regular version.
Which I've converted over to the regular version because it gives me 60 frames, even though it says 30 frames in the game.
This made me realize how much I actually look at the scenery. Like when you ride a lot, you don't pay attention, or at least you don't think you pay attention. And when it was glitching, I was like, like I actually watched the visuals and I used the visuals.
You actually
and when the visuals
care.
were gone, I do care. And when the visuals were gone and it was glitching, I was just like, this is ridiculous. I was like,
this would be tough. Now you're going to have to ride it pretty regularly the next couple of weeks to make sure this isn't something that's going to repeat, right? You don't want to do this in nationals.
Well, someone mentioned somewhere, I think on our Discord, that Bluetooth headphones caused issues for them. And then 2 other people chimed in saying, yeah, I had issues with Bluetooth headphones, but I've always like my setup has not changed. This has been exactly the same setup every time I've gone in MyWoosh. And I noticed the pairing of the Bluetooth, like my trainer took 35 seconds to actually pair.
Oh, my
pairing's been a little bit inconsistent in MyWoosh compared to other apps. But I get it to work, but it's just a little more inconsistent. Like you click like searching for, it may search for my trainer for 45 seconds before anything pops up.
Yeah, but I mean, other than the glitch, the drafting in MyWoosh I've quite enjoyed. I've done free riding the last couple weeks. I've ridden MyWoosh exclusively the last 2 weeks.
Yeah,
and I've done like free riding where you're on the flats, and I'm a whole 1 watt per kilo less drafting the person. Like they're at 2.6 and I'm at like 1.7, and I'm just getting pulled along.
I would be willing to do SRC if I could wake up, just because of this experience, because I enjoyed it. I had a good time.
For us being on the West Coast, SRC is at 1:30 a.m. Well, for Cat 6. For me, it's 1:30 a.m.
I don't know what it is
and
for me. I don't even know what I am right now. Probably a Cat 3. Cat 5. I'm probably Cat 5 now.
Yeah, you're on the borderline where, like, if it was 1:30 a.m. for me, I'd probably just stay up.
I'd stay up.
I know. At 10 a.m. in the morning, I'm like, yeah, I could do SRC. That sounds like a great idea. And then 9 o'clock at night, I'm thinking, no, there's no way. But 1:30, that's close enough where I almost think like I could probably stay up and win $10.
I was already contemplating it because of the amount of work I've been doing late at night.
I wasn't going to do it this week.
I could probably fit one of
just
these
because we had ERL at 6 a.m. and then I would have to do SRC at 1:30, but I think I might do it next weekend.
And I think you mentioned this, Lee. I think I've done one or two races at like 11 p.m. and you are not getting off the bike and going to sleep.
No, 1:30.
I don't know.
The SRC races are quite long, so I'd be on the bike for at least an hour and a half. So it'd be 3 a.m.
Yeah.
I'd be sweaty. I'd probably want to shower. I'm not going to bed till 5 a.m. It's a Sunday morning.
That's why it really wrecks. I did one when it was like the 2 a.m. race. I think it was a 2:15 race or whatever it was. But it like I really didn't get back. I didn't fall asleep until like 6. I think. I was just
You're pulling a third shift schedule there almost.
Yeah, it's like it's a Brian White like, oh yeah, I'm doing these weird 12-hour shifts. And he's like, that's why he's so good at SRC.
10th place in Cat 6 SRC is $10.
That's worth it.
US. That's like $18 Canadian.
That's more than we pay you here on this show.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
All right, what's the next one? What's the next topic? That was fun. No, I like I said, I had a good time. I'm not fit right now.
The main topic would be, so USA Cycling.
Oh, yes, USA Cycling.
For nationals allows elites to ride in the age category and elites.
Yeah, this is the topic.
Basically double dip.
Yeah. So this is the last few years maybe just 2024 and 2025 where I can't remember. Whatever. The idea is if you are an elite racer or you want to compete in elite racing, you cannot compete in the age group racing. That's how it's been previous years, at least 2022 and 2023. The decision last year, I think, was in Zwift on USA Cycling. I don't know how it is in Cycling Canada. I think Cycling Canada is you choose one or the other.
You choose one or the other because I asked Cycling Canada if I was willing to pay, could I race elites and age category? Not that I'm going to win, but I wanted to help bolster participation.
Yeah. And they said no.
Said no.
USA is not thinking that way. They have made a decision to allow, because this happened last year. I raced against previous elite national champions, and then other categories had elite. So there was like 5 elite national champions in the elite, or not elite national champions, sorry. 5 age group national champions in the elite championship. Previous winners that were in the elites. I was one. Mason Rocco's one. Jaden Yeager, I think, was one. And then Brian Duffy became the winner, but there was at least 3 Masters national champions that raced in the Zwift previous. So it's like, and then there was current U.S. national champions. They won on a Saturday and they were racing on Sunday. I can see why I prefer the former versus the latter, which is, hey, everyone, you can race whatever you want, whenever you want. Right? Hey, choose one so that other people can have competition. Because Casey has a good point. You should bring it up, Casey, but it's the thing you've been talking to us on your stream, but also before we started the show.
Oh, just like equating to outdoor racing?
No. Equating to participation decline because people are like, oh, I'm not going to win. So why am I going to show up? Why am I going to jump through all these hoops to do all this thing to get smoked by somebody that's the thing.
Yeah,
it's that sort of like,
I'm in an age group and a lot of guys I see in chat, you're in those age groups, right? Where a lot of the elite level racers are overlapping in our age groups. So I can join the national level competition right now and realistically think that I can get a podium. Like I can come home and be like, like I may not have won the age group, right? But like I was on the podium for national championships for my age group. You throw 3, elite possibility guys in there that are double dipping, and all of a sudden it's like, top 10 out of 12, like, and I guess I think it could discourage some people from even trying to sign up because they're not going to have a shot to get in that upper tier of finish positions if that kind of competition is there. Um, I am conflicted on this. Like I see both sides of
I
it.
see both sides too. I see both sides
So
too.
because the other part that I just thought about just now, as you were kind of saying that and kicking that off, Brian, was looking at it after the fact. Has anybody been on the podium on the elite race that actually won one of the age groups? Like you named off a few guys who won the age groups or the masters categories, but did they actually fare well in the elite the second day, or were they, I don't, no
I can't
disrespect to
remember.
them, but were they pack filler, or were they actually up in the front?
I think
he came sixth. I think the guy who won your category, Brian,
Mason
came
Roca.
sixth.
He did well. Now that you say that, I remember watching that. He
he's-
did well the next day.
He's good. He's good. He's got power.
Or maybe
Jaden's
make
also
the
very
races,
good.
maybe make the races the same day.
Overlap them. Or if
Or
you're
like-
going to
or
do them
even
both, like it has to be
back
real
to back.
fatigue, right? Like
Yeah, like
you get
you do
20
age
minutes
group-
and you're going
you
again.
do age groupers at 8 a.m. followed up with elites at 10 a.m.
Yeah, because
like-
we were kind of
Oh,
talking about that.
That's a good strategy. Yeah.
Yeah, we were kind of talking about that. Like when I would go to the state championships for time trials, right? I had to pick a category to compete in. If I wanted to compete in multiple categories, I had to
Mm.
ride twice. And the way they did the starting positions, you physically couldn't perform it twice, like
Right.
because you would have had to start the other category before you finished the other. Now I've done some road racing in two different categories on the same day.
Yeah, I've done that. You can do that. Crits too.
But
if
like
they,
you're
if they
saying,
line
Lee,
up time wise, yeah.
I got a 30-minute turnaround, right? Like I remember the first time I did road racing, I did Cat 5. I got second place. 20 minutes later, I started my Masters race that I won. So I raced 90 miles of road racing with, 20 minutes in the middle of it.
Well, because you have to think, if you're an elite level racer and you're racing Saturday morning in your age group, I mean, for a lot, like elite
you want to
level, that's like a
sacrifice?
warm up.
But
Yeah.
yeah, but do you want to sacrifice your chances in the elites to do the age groups that you could fall into?
Actually, I
That's-
like the idea of stacking them. Like
I like
same
this.
day.
I like the idea of stacking them now.
If you're going to do double,
Yeah,
you
yeah.
pay a penalty for it, which
Right.
is your own physical
Yeah,
abilities.
so you choose.
Yeah.
That's the choice. Now, from let's try to put on our USA Cycling hat and go. Why are we doing it the way we're doing it, and why did we change from the way we did it? So why would USA Cycling do that?
It's just easier for them to not have to monitor who's racing what.
Why would that be harder?
Numbers.
Like you
I
just
think
sign
it's
up. I think
numbers.
it's numbers. I think it's just get as
No,
many
probably
people
totally is
participation.
money. Actually, yeah, like Basalt said in chat, money. They get more registration fees, and it's a participation thing.
Right.
Probably got 10, 15 more riders on
Yeah.
Saturday. Now, and on the other side of that, this may not, we keep calling it like elites. It's really just a rider. It's basically, can a rider join multiple races for the nationals or just one? I don't necessarily have to be elite. We're talking about the elite.
But elite age groupers. It's only elite age groupers, because elites that are like in their 20s can only race one race.
Right. But I'm thinking of the other side of it, right? It's the unintended consequences. We're saying it kind of stinks that maybe an elite level rider can come down and nip an age group award. But on the other side of that, myself, Brian, Lee, we can join by allowing multiple races, we can join the elite race and see how
Yeah.
long we can hold on.
Don't read chat.
And I know
Lee,
maybe
you're
aren't,
laughing because don't
we
read
aren't
chat.
physically able to do that at the moment, but I look at chat. Scott
No, I'm
Cunningham,
laughing.
I didn't
because-
read chat, but
no,
I know it's going to be something.
No, I'm
no,
laughing
all right.
because
All
I
right.
actually have strategized by looking at the participation numbers. And
Oh yeah, this is
in
Lee's whole
previous
thing. Okay,
nationals,
yeah.
I've gone, if there is less than 10 elites at nationals, I'm going to race elites, because
Top
going
10.
into work on Monday, top 10 in elites
okay, yeah.
sounds way cooler than seventh in age group.
The
Yeah,
Al,
you
Lee's
get
the
some
Al Bundy of
high-end-
the world. Yeah.
Yeah.
you get some high-end age group guys, and they may want to join the elites to help fill the pack, but also just to be like, how long can I hold on to him, right? Like, a Scott Cunningham, one of those type of guys, they may want to jump into that elite. just
Yeah,
to be like,
I used to do
can I
that.
hold on to the pack and maybe nip a sprint at the end?
Yeah,
or
I
get
used
a
to
top
do that too,
five
yeah.
and-
Because I
yeah.
used to race because the fields were bigger. So this is outdoor cycling I'm talking about, outdoor cycling.
Yeah.
So when I was racing 4s and 5s, not as many people, right? At least when I started racing. Then I got into 3s and there was a bigger field, but then I did well and got my points and went to 2s. And I was like, okay, do I race Masters 2s? Because I probably can't hang with the 1-2s. But then the fields were smaller, and I was like, you know what? I want to challenge myself. I've built myself up to have fitness and stuff like that. I'm going to race with the young guys, and I would go in breakaways, and some people would go with me, and so on and so forth. So there is something as being an old person to sort of like challenge yourself and say, hey, maybe one of these I can get away, or I can sneak one in, and maybe it won't happen. But there's some
maybe everyone's trainers break, and
right?
You win the jersey.
Yes, that's what I'm trying to do. But
That's
then
how
there's for nationals, I'm not going to try to do elites because I'm not going to beat any of these, 20-year-olds. I'm just not.
You're definitely not going to do it if it starts 20 minutes after your age group one.
Correct.
Right.
Correct.
Well, and that's the weird thing about this e-cycling, like online. Why is there a 1 day in between? Like that's the whole point.
I think it's broadcasting and presentation of it, I believe.
Oh, are they broadcasting it?
No, they usually don't broadcast the age groupers.
No, they don't do age groupers.
Elites.
They only do Sundays.
They only do the Sunday elites.
When
so
we
if
were
you
in
did
the
them all,
pandemic,
couldn't you just broadcast? I mean, couldn't you make it into a big? I mean, you could.
A long day.
If you stacked them close in time.
Well, that's what they do.
You could rotate them through men and women and that, and actually
watching.
have a nice big.
No,
broadcast.
if you watch the SRC broadcast, all the categories are are like half an hour intervals.
Yeah.
And the broadcast is the whole thing.
He's watching. Nobody's watching.
But
it's like
okay, so Brian,
I'm watching it.
Esports.
I'm an age grouper. Yeah.
Esports is about the audience, not about the athletes, right?
Wait, hold on. Are we going to go into that? Are we going to go into that? Because I listened to it.
Well, I'm just saying, like, they're calling this esports. So esports is about a spectacle, not about a competition, right? Like, where do you draw the line on we're doing things to draw an audience versus we're doing what's right for pure racing for the competitors? And sometimes there's a sacrifice of not maybe what the competitors want in order to appease the audience and to draw in more of a crowd there. Where do you draw that line? And when we start saying esports, and this was kind of an epiphany that came up this week and some stuff we've read and looked through in that, like, esports isn't necessarily about pure racing. It's about building an audience and a following and putting on a show. You don't always make the same decision to build an audience as you would for pure competition.
That's a really good question, because we do talk a lot about things that we want in the game, things that need to be fixed, what we want. And to grow the sport, does what we want matter to grow the sport? No, it doesn't actually.
Hold on a second. We've been saying that, I think, from the first day. What we want is never what's going to be happening.
No, what we want, but in general, like, we shouldn't be listening to anybody. These companies
Correct.
should just be like,
that's why I don't look at
damn
chat.
it, this is what we're doing. You don't look at chat.
But I don't even know that some of the platforms are even looking at it from that point of view. Well, and I think the platforms have to decide what they're targeting, right? Are they targeting an audience and I mean, essentially growth through viewership, right?
I think it's pretty clear what Zwift
growth
is targeting.
through subscriptions, and I think different platforms have different targets, right?
Yeah. Zwift is targeting their subscribers and new
I don't think
subscribers.
Zwift has anything on their roadmap about dollars from viewership in streaming and media kind of thing.
That's actually another stream revenue that honestly they should be thinking about.
Oh, it's like pocket change to them.
Well, it's pocket change to them, but not if they grew it. If you were getting
not
a
if
YouTube,
they actually have real esports.
if you had 10,000 viewers on a YouTube stream, a live stream, you're getting some money. 10,000.
There's no way 10,000 people are going to watch this.
But that's
sport.
why they need to grow the sport to get to 10,000.
Okay, so it's the chicken and the egg, right? The game isn't good enough to be captivating. I've said this when we had Nathan on. I'm like, the game isn't captivating enough. Even if we put the webcams on of all the people, the game is not captivating enough for people to be into it. Now, everyone's like, oh, League of Legends and all these other games. Like, those are not that they're captivating. It's just that
those
people
are exciting games.
Yeah, they're exciting games. It's like, oh my God, he's going to go through the thing. Oh my God, he's running. He's support. Get him. That's exciting. You can't really do that with e-cycling. It's not that way. It's not that game. And if you want to go gamification or go into more gaming stuff, which I know what's the Virtual Velo podcast, and they had Frank Garcia on from CV Arcade and CVR,
Smash Your Fitness
Sports,
now. Yeah.
Smash Your Fitness, which I haven't checked out. I'm going to try to check it out. I want to see it. I thought Frank had really good points. There's some things that I think, in my opinion, he's missing on some things. I think he's focusing more on that sort of like, hey, how do we make it like League of Legends and stuff? Instead of like, I don't think this is not an esport. This is like virtual athletics. It's like athletes that do things virtually.
Yeah.
There's a difference. There's a huge difference. And I think somebody's losing that sort of like, that like sort of breaking like, oh, well, you know, like League of Legends. And we know we've had Damon on and he brings up the stats all the time because I've talked to him all the time. Like, oh, they had like the Invitational had this, and like you watch all of these competitions like the Overwatch, and now Marvel Rivals is like a really big sport. That is esports. I get it. That's what we're calling esports. Athletes sweating on a bike you're not doing like a 6-hour tournament. You're doing like maybe one ride, and that's like an hour at like full gas. You're done. Whew. You can't get the captivating of it. Like I could barely get a camera in my Whoosh to like, just for me as a competitor, see what I wanted to see.
I think you brought up that interview, and I was kind of thinking about that too. The interesting thing that Frank did bring up, which I think is hitting the target, and it even relates to what you're saying, Brian, is you think about the IRL version of kind of this, right? You think of Tour of France, or you think of auto car racing, right?
Yeah.
A lot of people are tuning in, or when you see the highlights of things, you're seeing the highlights of dramatic moments. You know, the guy crashing down the hill.
He said crashing.
He gets the bunny hop and he smacks the side of the car and goes flying, right? Like in NASCAR, you see a replay of the crash. We don't have any of that in cycling right now unless you add gamification.
The highlights.
Yeah.
There aren't any highlights.
Right.
I'm sure. I'd love to get Nathan on just to talk about the broadcast. Like when he's like, oh, here's like him and Dave break down a race or something, and it's like, here's the highlights from the race. Like, don't really have any highlights because it's just a massive like avatars that are emotionless.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh well, here's the attack or here's the sprint.
But if you talk about other esports, you know, I think of some of the first-person shooter esports that I've watched and all that. The highlights are somebody pulled an awesome move. They jumped out the window and jumped on the back of the guy's car and shot him through the back window. Right? There's something like that. You're like, holy cow! I can't believe he did that.
The Street Fighter, like where they're on a sliver of power and they come back and they win. They hit like a 10-hit combo and they come back and win.
Well,
That's
how do you
exciting.
appeal to that in?
Well, you can appeal with that because they're doing it with their fingers, going. Oh my god!
How do we do that in cycling? That's the question, right? Like that's how you build esports in cycling. Is how do you how do you build a highlight into e-cycling?
Well, I said this, maybe, I don't know if I said it on here, I said it on my show. And Frank also talks about this, like, I think he hinted at, like, a little bit more stuff. Look, I think Repack Rush would be an amazing esport if you could race against other people at the same time and you're trying to get the same power boost, or it's on the road and you're trying to get every power boost. You're going down the road, and if you could get over and hit the power boost, I said this before, if you could steer and hit the little chevrons and get a power boost, or you hit the sludge like an oil slick, like Spy Hunter, or you had little things that were like, hey, at this moment, I'm saving this to do something to another rider, or road rash, or kick somebody off their bike, which sucks, which is totally not cycling, which is totally not cycling. You're at least creating something that's exciting. That's what I'm trying to say.
Gamification.
And that's what Frank's
No,
games
not
have
gamification.
done.
Not gamification. Yeah. Gamification is XP and doing all these other things.
I just think when I say gamification, I just mean
make it a game.
Towards gaming.
Make it a game.
Yes.
Make it a game.
And that's what Frank's games have done.
Yeah.
The ones that he's designed, right? You've had, you wreck on turns. It's creating that drama, right? You got to catch up. They're natural cycling things that happen for the most part, right? It's you ran into something, you fell off your bike, you took a corner too fast, right? But it's creating drama by something happening in the game that you've got to chase back from. And
Frank brought this up, and he's spot on this one. I agree. Like, you watch League of Legends or Valorant, or I think the new ones like Finals, you watch like Marvel Rivals. Those are games, right? When you watch a video game that's simulating sport like FIFA or something like Madden, the people playing Madden, the numbers are not as popular because people don't really want to see somebody play a controller to do a real sport. Like it's not that, it's sometimes dynamic, but most people are just fans of the sport and they'll watch it. But when you're watching something that's new, that's giving you those sort of like highs and lows, or low, hey, this is a low light, or this is when somebody turned over the ball. Like some of that is not as exciting in a sports simulated game. And that's why cycling, I think, falls into that, because there's no, he wants to bring in crashing. I don't want crashing. I don't want all that stuff, because it's, here's the difference. Here's the difference. It's hard to control things while you're riding a bike at effort. It's hard. Like we can barely hit spacebar sometimes. Oh, well, you got all this. Well, fine. When the hardware is elevated to where you're like, oh wow, I can do a hard threshold effort for 20 minutes and try to hit the chevrons to boost myself. Like you work on those things. But when the controller is terrible, because you have to use a mouse, or it's not even available unless you buy the controller, the hardware, the software, and the game needs to be better. Then the athletes can get better. And that's the problem with what we said at the beginning is this game's not ready for this. These games are not ready for prime time.
I spent a lot of time on Frank's Arcade Sport or CV Arcade game. And that was my complaint.
Too engineered.
Yeah, that was my complaint, was I was tired of racing one-handed because I had one hand on the keyboard the whole time. Now, I will say, if I had a Zwift Play that steered me in that game and allowed me to brake in that game, that I didn't have to take my hands off the handlebars and that fit that well. Like I like the Zwift Plays and the way they fit, and there's little things, right? But in general, they're really good little platform. If I had something like that in that game at that point in time, I probably would have rode it more. But I was constantly racing literally one-handed. I had one hand rested on a keyboard tray the entire time I raced.
Yeah, I did CV Arcade a few times, and yeah, it was difficult.
I liked the skill-based, like I liked the skill-based part of it. I couldn't do it comfortably.
It's hard to do. Go run full speed on a treadmill and try to, like, you know, control Mario. I'm sure there's a couple people that can do it, but not everyone can do it. Like it's like, what is it, speed run, like the GDQ, right? The game's done quickly. There's somebody that's like, I just watched somebody, like a highlight, somebody played Mario on a piano keyboard. Like they're like, I don't even play with a controller, I just use the piano. They spent hours and hours and hours on that. Were they at high heart rate? Were they, did, you know, like doing things at high exertion is way different in an e-sport, as we're calling it, than it is when you're like, oh, sitting in your bedroom doing, oh, I'm just gonna use a keyboard to play this thing, or play the Donkey Kong Congos to do, you know, whatever, to play Super Mario World. It's different.
If you're gonna do those things, you got to do them in a way that it's very natural.
Yeah, so right? It has to, like you said, it has to be on the controller. If you had if we had, look, if there was like the gaming bars, like the Zwift rides, but Zwift ride only works like. I like shifting. Yeah. I don't want to not shift. And the buttons on the Zwift Plays only work in Zwift. But I wouldn't mind using those controllers if somebody else wants to come up with a not proprietary controller. And you can go, hey, this is the steer to the chevron to get the boost in the game that whatever has boosts. That would be cool. Like the Repack Rush, which I haven't done ever, but I've watched people do it. It's a time trial. It would be awesome.
It's actually pretty hard.
Okay.
It's really hard, but it should be a competition against anyone that's in the, like, you show up and it's like playing, like, what is it? It's like a drag race.
Well, every time I did it about five times one day, just back to back to back. And it brings two things that you don't think, like you were talking about using a controller and pedaling. Because I found every time I was really concentrating on trying to steer to where I needed to go, I would stop pedaling and my power would drop. And then I'd be like, oh, why was my guy not moving? Oh, yeah. And it was really hard to actually do well.
That, what you just said, Brian, I think might be our segue to, I think might have been one of Lee's topics for tonight.
Oh, good.
We can get right into is, I bought a Zwift ride. How do I try my whoosh? Right? Like
Easily.
that. How many times do we hear this, right?
You take it off the trainer and you put your bike back on and you ride my whoosh.
Yes, that's a big topic on social media right now. I think a lot of people got Zwift rides for Christmas, and there was a lot of posts on my whoosh Facebook, Training Peaks Velo virtual Facebook page going, hey, how do I get my Zwift ride to work in my whoosh? Well, you can't. You can. But
Hey,
you
I have a
can't
question.
shift.
This is going to go way back, way back. I'll even go way back. I have two. Way back for anyone that's watching this show or listening to the show. I bought a Betamax tape. Can I put it in my VHS tape and play it? The answer is no. Or did I? Hey, I got my buddy let me borrow his HD DVD. Can I play it in my Blu-ray player? No.
And they had the
You
same
can-
struggle then, right?
Yeah.
It was the techie guys like us understood that, but the Amp Bevs of the world
Yeah.
would be like, "What do you mean? I bought a video player for my home, and I
Mhm.
went and rented a video, and it doesn't fit."
Correct.
Right? Like,
That's on the consumer. I'm sorry. That's on the consumer.
read the
You
fine
can use
print.
it. You can do ERG workouts all day long.
You can.
You just
You
can't
can still-
shift.
yeah.
Because it's basically a single speed bike.
It's
in-
Zwift. It's a Zwift product.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't understand.
I think people confuse that, yeah. And I will often encourage people, like when they're buying like a core or something like that right now, if you're interested in the plays and the cog and all that, like buy the pack that has all that stuff in it. Because in order to take that trainer, the
Yeah.
core, whatever, not necessarily with the ride and the frame and all that, but to take that trainer and to ride it on another platform, it's real easy to go
Right.
to Amazon and buy a cassette, throw it on the
Totally.
trainer,
This
you're good
is
to go.
right.
Right.
This is the people who bought Peloton that then had friends that were on Zwift. They're like, can I use Peloton on Zwift? No. I mean, it's pretty clear.
Yeah.
All right. That was a short topic. I have a final topic, which I thought of, which I think we've talked about before, is, what was it? Man, I just lost the train of thought.
Rice.
No,
Nice.
I need some.
Was it
I
on
had
our
some-
list?
Was it on the list? Yeah, let me look at the list. All right, now I'm stalling. All right, hey, how are you guys doing? Now, is there any questions from chat? Hey, let's listen to chat now.
Rice
Well, I've
cooking.
been running a little bit. I got
Oh,
back on the
running, that was
treadmill.
it. Thank you. Running.
Yeah.
I did the treadmill. I probably shouldn't have done the treadmill because it gave me blisters because I didn't have like my running shoes. I brought cycling shoes.
Oh, at the hotel.
Yeah, the extra stuff. My thing was like, because I think Frank was talking about, maybe it was Frank, I can't remember what, but I thought of it while I was listening to the Virtual Velo podcast. I'm gonna give a shout out to them,
Yeah.
where I think it was like, adding rowing and running and all these other sports that can be cross pollination. Like, I think the staying focused on cycling is probably the best thing for these platforms. I know Zwift has running and MyWhoosh has running. Does Ruvi have running? But I know those are like not really supported. But it's like, because you can do these other things, it's not conducive to like innovating, in my opinion.
You want to talk about avatars? The MyWhoosh running avatars.
Yeah, well, hey,
Have you ever passed a runner? It's hilarious.
yeah, I know. The avatars need work. But I go back to the flow thing. Those are two different things. Hopefully people get that. I was talking to my stream and Alan got that. But I think the running is cool to have that, but we don't have cars in those spaces. I'm just saying that, like, is it okay to have like the EXR, the rowing app, which is just rowing? Like, I think it's nice to be, instead of being a jack of all trades, because a lot of people want, I want rowing and I want all this other stuff. It's like, no, I think Zwift could be even better at cycling if they just focused on cycling. Now they have supported running. MyWhoosh is sort of abandoned running unless there's more updates on running. But let's maybe bring it back and stay focused on the cycling to make the cycling the strongest part of the game.
Like, stop diluting your
That's it.
developers.
Thank you for helping me with that. Yeah, stop diluting it.
Because they are splitting their developers to do all this other stuff, and they're not doing any one thing really awesome.
that was my rant this week on just a random ride, right? Like I had a couple frustrating rides this week, so this is my story for the week. I've been having good luck getting on the bike and releasing frustration. And my two rides this week that were, it probably was my only two rides this week because I ran twice also. I got on the bike and it added frustration. And one of those was directly at Zwift. I get into one of these just normal old Zwift whatever tour of some random world that I really don't give a crap about. But
Tour.
there
It's
were
Tour of Zwift
2,000
or
people
Tour.
in there, right?
It's Tour of Zwift or Tour of Watopia. That's all they
Yeah,
do
so
every year.
we were getting ready to head up a climb mid ride, and you know how I like to troll everybody. The coffee stops start popping up around me, and I'm thinking in my head, originally coming into this, I was like, I'm gonna make it to this climb and then I'm off, right? Like I'm just gonna phone it in from here. And the coffee stops popped up a couple minutes before we got to the climb, and I'm like, oh, I'm gonna coffee stop this climb. I'm gonna troll the people around him, let them light the fire up and chat, get all mad because the coffee stops cheating, all this. I'm gonna get over the climb and then I'll ride to the finish with him. I'm like, oh, this is gonna be fun, right? This is how I enjoy my rides, my casual rides. I get to the bottom of the hill, I drop my feather at the bottom of the hill, ride till my feather's up, go to pop up the coffee stop not available.
Wait, what?
Yeah,
Really?
just it's still broken. You randomly don't get it. There's coffee stops fired up all around me. There's like 5 guys around me with a coffee stop. 35 minutes into a ride, like I started a free ride 10 minutes before I joined the starting pin. I joined the starting pin and I started the ride. Like I didn't come from a race. I didn't do anything weird to enter. Nothing like that. But I rode for over an hour and I never got a coffee
Did you
stop.
never get it?
Never.
Or are you not allowed to do it immediately following a power up?
No, I tried it later in the race,
Oh.
like all the way to the finish line of the race, and even after the race was done, I still couldn't coffee stop. I'm like, and at the same time that I go to coffee stop, I look up and we're in McCurry, and my mini map is the zoomed in mini map that shows you about 2 square meters in the arrows the size of the map. And I'm like, so this is when I went into like full Zwift rage mode, right? Why? What, coffee stop's been in there 2-3 years? Why is the coffee stop still freaking broken? And why is the mini map on McCurry still broken? Right? Like, why are we doing things like catering or customized Zwift route timings and things like that? We keep adding things to the game that are buggy when you haven't fixed the bugs and the things you added
Yeah.
to the game 3 years ago. Fix the bugs, because with every new feature you add bugs, and if you don't start fixing some of the old bugs,
Mhm.
you end up with 90% bugs. It's to the point where in every ride you encounter a bug like
Yeah.
that. And you think, oh, you missed a coffee stop, no big deal. But it's not about missing the coffee stop as much as like they advertise as this being a part of the game. If they weren't able to fix the coffee stop bug 2 years ago, a year ago, they should have said, we're just going to turn it off for these big events, right? Like it only works in free riding, right? Because we can't figure out this bug. I'd rather it just not be a thing than to be an inconsistent thing.
Probably
My rant.
easy. Yeah, it's a good rant. It's probably, well, this is just me assuming, and I shouldn't do that. It's not affecting as many people that would complain to them about it, and so you're just pushed aside as like, no, we're only going to fix it to the people that really complain about it, and then there's not that many complaints, so they don't fix it.
I live in an IT world, and to me, this is a management issue. Like being in an IT world, like this is one of those things I think about in some of the roles that I've been in, where at some point, like you go into someone's office and say, I do not care what else ever breaks in this software. This starting next week, this can never break again, right? Like this is ridiculous. It's gone on long enough. We've done it enough times, right? It's one of those things, right? Like it's like, I don't care what else you screw up. You cannot repeat this screw up again. And that's why I feel like no one at Zwift is having those conversations, right? To be like, and maybe it's because it's a different world, right? It's I don't work in a gaming world where it's individual consumers.
The same thing in my industry. Yes, we make a mistake. We never make that same mistake twice. That's how the company moves forward.
Yeah, you can't protect from every mistake, but you got to learn from your mistakes to not repeat the mistake.
Right. There's this is how I kind of train people, like new people that come in wherever I am, professionally or personally. don't be afraid to make mistakes, but when you make the same mistake over and over and over again, that's when it's a problem. And so this has become a problem, right? And that because it's the same sort of like the whole goal of like, hey, we have these bugs and then they keep breaking, you know? So I've just
I
just
accept the
assumed that
mistakes.
it's a problem.
I don't feel like there's enough effort into cleaning up some of those bugs that are super old now.
Yeah.
Yeah, my slogan to a lot of people at work is always, you know who doesn't make mistakes? The person who never does anything, right?
Yeah.
If you're doing the work, you're gonna make mistakes, right? And I accept that. But I ranted hard on that one. I actually was proud of myself because I filtered it pretty hard on stream because I was having a bad day and I was mad because in my brain, because all of a sudden I had like this relief, right? Like, oh, the coffee stops here. I can get up this climb and I can actually finish with this
Yeah,
pack.
yeah,
I
yeah.
was like, I like had the whole ride mapped out in my head, and Zwift took that out from under me because of a bug, and it sent me off the deep edge in that race. So, or in that ride. So it was kind of a funny moment. I look back on it now and it's like it's really not that big of a deal. But
It
that's
was
the
like
kind
a
of
birds
stuff.
thing, like me with the birds.
Yeah, it was. It was
Oh my
just I
God.
was having one of those moments where I was just like I just wanted to alt F4 and be like, screw this. Like you ruined my whole ride, Swift.
Yeah, I think my bird stream was probably my shining light or shining moment in frustration. A lot of people see me frustrated, but that was probably the most frustrated I've ever been.
Bird one was a good one.
The Power Passport was pretty good frustration. I think a lot of people unfollowed and tuned out what I
need
was
to go
talking
watch
about.
that one. I
Oh
don't
my
think
God.
I've actually watched that. And the VODs
Oh.
Dude,
should
I was
be up on
dude,
that
it's
one.
It's
in the
hilarious.
video too. It's in the video of me like complaining about things, and I'm just like, man, I forgot. I
I've
gotta
known
send this to somebody.
BK long enough that I was enjoying him getting mad, and I knew he wasn't real. Like he's mad, but I could feel that there was probably people in chat that were uncomfortable with how mad he
They
was
just
getting.
they don't get the show on my
And
show.
I was like
not this
egging
one,
him
but-
on. I'm like, yeah.
Oh yeah.
And I'm just like, people are probably like, oh, geez. It's like when you're a kid and you're over at your friend's house and their friend's parents are yelling at your
Oh,
friend.
yeah,
and you're
yeah,
like,
yeah, yeah.
and you're trying to like, I'm going to slowly back up here. And that's like what BK's PPT test stream was like.
I was yelling.
like, would you just get on with the test, damn it?
I know.
You
Well,
spend an hour not riding your bike.
because I didn't want
I've
to do
had
it.
a few of those
I did it.
moments with
Yeah.
Dr. Weebles where I'd poke
Oh, yeah,
at him
yeah.
in the middle of a race and he would just freaking explode at me. And I know chat's like, oh my God, what's going on? And like, he'll send me a message off to the side
That's-
later, be like, sorry, man. I'm like, no. I poked at you. I deserved that.
That-
Like I did it
Oh,
on,
yeah.
you do it a little bit on purpose.
One of my favorite, actually, Dr. Weebles, one of my favorite stream incidences of all time was Dr. Weebles doing nationals on RGT, and BK was coaching him
Oh,
on Discord, and BK was like, go, good, you got this, keep it good. And at one point, Dr. Weebles is like, Brian,
that's
you're
enough.
not enough.
Oh, yeah,
you're not
yeah.
helping. You're not making the situation better. And then 30 seconds later, he's like, actually, you are. Keep
Oh
talking.
yeah, right. I remember that. Yeah.
He's like, sorry.
Because there's when I was DSing for him or for anybody, I just want to balance that because I particularly don't like somebody doing that to me, but I'm really comfortable doing it for other people.
Different people don't react differently,
So,
right?
Like,
you
okay,
don't know.
your line in that what was that? It was a race or something I did the other day. Oh no, the breakaway in Zwift. And you just that little line, like I didn't need somebody to tell something, but just I could glance and get something. I was like, oh, okay, I'll chalk that up. But when I'm talking to somebody and I'm like, hey, is this too much? Like because there's some people I don't read them or I try to read like, hey, is this too much? Like push. Like I was doing the thing for Scott Cunningham.
Yeah.
And I was like, hey man, go. You should probably go right here. Keep pushing on the downhill. You'll recover. And I'm just talking to myself, whether he's listening to my stream in the background, which he probably isn't. But I was also teaching other people that were watching my stream or would happen to watch my stream about how you would approach different things inside the race.
Yeah, I do that a lot when I used to do race broadcasts. My race broadcasts were a little different than just watching what was on the screen because I would be evaluating the race and saying if I was in this position, I'd be thinking about X, and if somebody went, I'd probably be like, and I would coach them through that. So we're kind of at that. We're just over an hour. But we were talking about one thing, and I wanted to just give a shout out because this was probably one of the best community things I saw, and I stumbled across that this week. Hardclaws somehow dreamed up some witchcraft where he has some AI bot that is
Oh,
Doc
yeah.
barking at him, and like he says
Games with
something to
Doc is a
Doc,
site.
and it's
Yeah,
replying
Eric.
to him, and it is fantastic. I don't know what kind of craziness Hardclaws did to create this thing, but I don't know if it's chat, if it's
Oh yeah,
some
a
sort
small little
of
language model
machine
that he.
learning
Yeah,
thing
yeah,
or something, but
yeah.
it is Doc giving him Doc like answers to everything. It is absolutely hysterical. So kudos all the guys creating content out there, but that was like my content
Matt
highlight of
Hooker,
the week.
everybody.
Like,
Matt Hooker from
yeah,
Down
the
Under.
hookers. So this is about the time of day for them normally, right? Like they're jumping
Right.
on in their morning, I think.
All right, we have a tease unless we want to get squeeze one more in. Do we want to talk about number 7?
Number 7. We can real quick. I want to answer a question in chat.
Okay, all right.
Because I think this is good for everybody. Pedal to progress. Guys, find our Discord. He's asking where can he find our streams, and rather than us just rattle off everybody's streams here, hit us up in Discord. There's a ton of people in Discord that are actively streamers. Yeah, so
somebody else has to do the link. That's not me.
Yeah, the link is in our YouTube channel too. That was a YouTube chat. So yeah, but good question. Pedal to power. Number 7, Scott. Number
Wait a minute.
7.
We're listening. Hold on a second.
Yeah,
we're listening to YouTube chat now.
I'm watching it. Yeah, it was a good question.
Shame on
we
you
got all
both.
the chats
Shame
up.
on you both.
So you're talking about PD5, right?
Yes. I'm joking, chat. I'm joking.
We don't have time to
Welcome
talk
to the
about
show.
this.
Welcome to the show. My whole thing is never listen to chat. They are not helpful at all. But
so number 7 is our teaser.
Quality
right?
content comes from chat. For
is that
sure.
What you're saying?
Yeah, the PD5.
PD5. So if you haven't seen it, there's a big forum post that's probably 2 full pages long of Zwift telling us what they've been doing to us for the last 45 days that nobody knew they were doing to us. Like we are their rats in a cage. So they've been doing a lot of testing in open worlds on, some people are calling it PD5, but it's really auto steering and collision stuff.
Oh, then it is in Pack Dynamics 5.
Yeah, so it's not really dynamics, I think, from a draft perspective, but it's about rider interaction and auto steering stuff. So a lot of the open world riding and a lot of the group riding for the last 45 days has had a new version of that in it, but races do not. So like if you're riding Tour of Watopia or Tour of Zwift right now, you are probably experiencing different pack dynamics than when you race. And I know this makes BK's head explode.
God. Are you kidding me?
But they didn't tell us they were doing it, and their reasoning is as soon as we tell you we're doing something, we get a bunch of feedback that's kind of false feedback. It's complaining about things that have nothing to do with it.
Why is there? Sorry, I have to chime in. Why are they doing it in different things? Do it across the entire game.
So what they started with was a specific world, like it was in Watopia first. And then they added it to group rides, and then they added it to other worlds, and then
not events.
It's been in group ride events, but not racing. And where they really messed up, and they admitted they messed up, is team time trials are actually under the group ride umbrella, not the race umbrella. So inadvertently, the team time trials has had weird pack dynamics for the last month that people were like, something has changed. And we couldn't figure out what it was, and Zwift actually reverted it for the team time trials. Like they're like, "Oops, sorry, our bad." Yeah, this has been like this since
this is the new thing. This is the new thing. So, from old tech world, whatever, we are all old on this show. But I remember hearing like an old story about how I'm just gonna a new tech company that's probably been around for maybe 20 years now, because that's not old, okay? But their engineers, like you would have youthful engineers that would release software without telling anybody. No release notes, no like, hey, let's do it. They would just release stuff. And if no one complained, that was a successful release, that's not what it used to be. It used to be like, hey, we're going to inform everybody of this new thing. Here's the version, here's the README, here's everything. And this is what we're releasing. And then they would release it. There was a change in, hey, we're going to do our due diligence and let people know what's going on so that if changes occur, we can inform you about that. Then it became the release it, and if no one says anything, or if there's not enough if there's no squeaky wheel, then we're good. And then when the squeaky wheels show up 6 months later, they might not remember which was the release that they released it for. And then we got to figure out what's going on. That is what they're doing now. That's what we got going on. All right.
Unfortunately.
Yeah, I think.
All right.
I kind of understand what they were saying, though, because if you say we did this, it's kind of like the ZRS thing, right? The Zwift Racing Score, everybody has an opinion, and they don't necessarily want all the opinions. They want people coming back to say, this is really something really weird. But as soon as they say they've changed stuff, everybody's like, oh, this is broken. Half the group says it's broken and it's worthless. You can never write it again. Right, and the other half loves it.
But so we're not internal. Yeah. But do they have an internal testing team or they don't? And they're just using it on us.
I don't know. So so this is funny because I actually laughed at this to myself. So I'll admit this. In what they wrote, they're like, the Zwift employees have been using this on their own versions of Zwift for 3 months. And I'm like, yeah, so what? Is that 30 miles total for the entire company in the last 3 months? Like who clearly no one at Zwift is actually writing this, right? Like
yeah, I mean, so I used to work for a video game developer, publisher, and there was a QA staff that I knew some of the people there. And it's like it's a 9 to 5 gig, sometimes even longer, and you're playing the game and you're running into walls trying to find, the bugs.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's occurring. If it does, then you go, oh, hey, we're going to release this update after it's been scrutinized in the QA world.
So let's just leave it on.
Then it's released.
Let's just leave it on this note. Maybe a cycling platform needs to come up with a beta version of their software and have select people from the community use that beta software to test.
Maybe.
Has anybody heard of that?
I've heard something. I've heard something about that.
I think that might be a thing.
4.0.
So here we are.
Yeah. Hey, it's a unique approach. Some people choose to do it and some people choose not to. So there you go. All right. On that note, we got it in. We squeezed it in.
Yeah.
But it is not Pack Dynamics 5.
It'd be like Pack Dynamics 4.47.
It's steering dynamics or steering whatever.
The choice of terms is, I don't know if that's Zwift's official term or not. Some people are calling it that.
Okay, gotcha. That's why I was excited. I was like, oh, cool. Because I love, that's probably my favorite thing.
Because PD5 would be like a massive new update because it'd be going from version 4.45 to 5.
But Pack Dynamics 3 to Pack Dynamics 4, and we did those little test events, was where I got excited again for Zwift.
And it was a good move.
So I wanted to get excited again for new Pack Dynamics or whatever their sort of take on physics.
This is road placement and collisions only. Yeah.
Disappointed once again. Bummer. Here we go. Play the music. Let's play the music. Let's get out of here. Thanks everyone for hanging out. Brian White should be back with us if he's not on a boat still. I don't know. Next week.
Maybe.
Everyone have a good riding around virtual worlds, staring at the wall like Lee had the 5-second refresh. Hopefully that's fixed for you, buddy.
I'm gonna actually go chest it out a little bit.
Right on. I'm gonna try to get on either tomorrow, but we'll have more work. But that's it. Thanks everyone for hanging out. Till next time. Bye.
Have a good night.